today. My name is Lori. I'll welcome you here today, allowing me to bring a practice to you. So I'm going to invite you all to lie down on your mat, nice and long, and just move the body around a little bit, and then just let yourself settle into a nice comfortable position, finding that neutral position of our spine, hips and pubic bone will be on the same plane, and then just close your eyes. Allowing those arms to relax down by your side, or maybe one hand is on your belly, the other one on your heart center. And I want you to use your breath to let go of any expectations that you have at this moment. Using that breath to unchatter our mind and our body. We take a nice deep cleansing breath. So inhaling through your nose and ever so slowly expelling all that air out of your lungs, allowing that breath to expel any toxins that we've created both physically and spiritually. As we take that deep inhalation, I want you to feel your ribs reaching from east to west. And slowly expelling all that air with a deep sigh. I want you all to commit to the present. Forget what happened 5 minutes ago, or what's going to happen at noon today, but just bring yourself to your present. On your next exhalation, I'm going to invite you to reach the arms up overhead, bring yourself in that beautiful morning stretch, drawing the soles of my feet away from me as my fingertips are reaching to the back of my mat. Holding it there for a couple breaths. Then we're going to sweep our arms down by our side as if we're making snow angels and then reaching back up overhead. So inhale and lower those arms down from your side. Then use that exhalation to reach those fingertips above your head. Just a couple beautiful snow angels or sand angels, or however you choose today. And then just have those arms reaching towards your heels. We're going to float that right leg just slightly up off the mat. And just feel that core engage. Reaching our heel away. I want you to draw that knee in towards your chest, giving yourself that well-preserved hug. And then draw that knee into that right armpit. Maybe circling that knee within the hip joint. Opposite direction. Another nice big hug. And let's slowly slide that leg nice and long on the mat. Let's draw that left knee in towards your chest. Flexing that foot. Drawing that left knee into the left armpit. Maybe adding a little circle. Opposite direction. Now just bring that knee a little bit closer into your armpit. And let's have the right knee join the left knee. We're going to nod our chin up to our tips of our shoulder blades. So curling up like a ball. We're going to have a little bit of core here, waking up that core. We're just going to take a nice deep breath in. As I breathe out, I want you to reach those limbs away from one another. We're going to sweep our arms down by our sides and give ourselves a nice big hug. Curling up like a ball. So reaching away and then sweeping in. And let's try 5 more, working at your own pace, using your own breath here. And I've got 3, 2, 1. We're going to hold that hug. Draw those legs a little bit closer in. From here, I want you to rock up and down the length of your spine. we're just going to roll ourselves all the way up into the sitting position. Let's release our shins. Draw our hands up to the side, palms towards the ceiling. Let's draw the shoulder blades to the center of our spine. Long through that spine. We're going to float those legs up. Bring yourself into our boat position. Bring the toes come to the floor. Maybe they come up. Wherever we are, let's hold this position for 3 full breaths. Chest, wherever we are, is proud. Gaze is forward. And we slowly lower those feet. Hands underneath my thighs. We roll all the way down onto our back. Let's slide the soles of our feet towards our sit bones. Feet are flat. Can we find all four corners of our feet? Hands are down by our sides. Palms facing the floor. I want you to press your hands into the floor. We're going to float those hips up into our bridge position. And here I'm going to roll my shoulders underneath me. Maybe clasping my hands underneath my derriere. Reaching the back of my hands towards my heels. But finding the energy for my hip flexors. All the way through my quads, straight through my knees. Think of drawing my even thighs towards one another. I'm going to float that right leg up towards the ceiling. Drawing that leg out of my hip, we're going to draw 4 circles in one direction. 4 in the opposite. And then bending that leg, we're going to place that foot on the floor. Let's release those hands, lower that spine, 1 vertebra at a time towards the mat. And just wave your knees from side to side. And then bring those legs into stillness. Coming back up to that bridge, rolling those shoulders underneath me, interlocking my fingers underneath my derriere, and press those hands towards your heels. Reach those hips up. Let's float that leg up towards the ceiling. Drawing that leg out of my hip. Let's do 5 circles in one direction. We did 4 in the other one, and then 4 in the opposite. And then bend that leg, plant that foot on the floor, release your hands from underneath you, and let's lower that spine 1 vertebra at a time, all the way down towards the mat. Let's bring both of those arms out into a T. Shoulder blades are drawn down to my back pockets. We're going to pop the feet up into a tabletop. We need to lower those knees over to the right, take my gaze over the left shoulder. Keeping both of those shoulders attached to the mat. And let's drag those knees back to center, using those abdominals to help. Now let's bring them over towards the left. Taking my gaze over that right shoulder, and then draw them back up. 1 more time per side, using your own breath. Each one of our breaths are different than our fellow participants. And back. Let's give those knees another hug. Rounding up into that ball, point those toes, and then flex. We're going to point and flex. Let's keep those toes pointed. We're going to roll up and down the length of our spine. We're going to use that momentum to bring yourself into our tabletop position. So while I'm in that tabletop position, I want you to be stretched through your wrists. So I'm going to place my fingertips so that they're facing the long edges of my mat. And from here, I just want you to shift your weight back and forth. You don't do enough stretching of those wrists. And then if your body is capable, bring yourself back to the tabletop. I'm going to point my fingertips towards my knees. And just give yourself that little shift from side to side. Forward and back. And then just bring yourself into that neutral position. Let's flip our fingertips to the top of our mat. We're going to bring ourselves into a little cat cow. We're going to tuck our tailbone under, reach our upper back towards the ceiling. Slowly come into that neutral spine. Drop your tailbone, drop your chest, bring your weight. So choose your breath, whether it's an inhale coming into your cat, maybe it's an exhale. Feel the difference our breath makes with each movement. And now let's just hold yourself in that neutral spine. Shoulder blades are drawn across the upper back. Belly button's drawn in and up underneath that rib cage. We're going to float our right knee slightly up off the mat. Engaging through that core. Flexing that foot. Let's slide that leg up nice and long. Ankle is in line with my hip. Right hip draws down towards the mat. I'm going to slide that left arm up nice and long. We're going to bend those limbs as we draw them directly underneath us, rounding up like a ball and then extending up nice and long. Feeling that mobility of our spine. And let's go for 3, 2. Last one, we're going to hold those limbs up nice and long. I want you to bend the right leg. We're going to take the left hand. We're going to reach back. Take the top of our foot in our hand. Drawing that foot away as I lift my chest. And a little bit of extension of that spine. Let's hold it there for 2 more full breaths. And then slowly releasing it. Let's shift our weight back onto our heels and just wiggle that derriere from side to side. And then slowly coming back up into that tabletop. Adjust those shoulders. We're going to float that left knee slightly off the mat. Keeping those hips on the same level as I extend that left leg up nice and long. Flexing that foot. We're going to slide that right arm up nice and long. Wrist line with the shoulders. Gaze is down. We're going to bend those limbs, draw them directly underneath us. And then slowly extend. We're going to draw under. And extend. And let's go for 3, 2, 1. Holding them up nice and long. We're going to bend that left leg. We're going to sweep that right arm back. Taking hold of that left foot. Press that foot into the palms of your hands as I lift my heart towards the ceiling. And then that beautiful stretch in your quad and your hip flexor. A little bit of extension of that spine. And ever so slowly, let's release. We're going to take that left hip, but we're going to draw it over towards the left heel. We're going to sweep those hips over to the right, and then over to the left. Really reach those sit bones away. And let's go for 3, 2, 1. Holding those hips back. Bring ourselves into our child's pose. Let's reach those hands forward. Maybe dropping my forehead to the mat. And just rocking my head from side to side, massaging that third eye. Then ever so slowly coming back into that tabletop position. We're going to extend that left leg out, tucking the toes beneath me. We're going to shift that weight forward, so press through your toes, drawing that forehead forward, and then shifting back. So a little shift forward and back. Stretching through the calf, the Achilles. And let's go for 3, 2, 1. Holding that heel back. Now let's slide that knee back underneath us, and we're going to take that right leg, reaching it out. Drop that right hip so the hips are on the same level. We're going to shift forward and really reach that heel back, finding that stretch within the calf and our Achilles. Also, our foot needs a little bit of stretch. Don't do enough stretching of those feet. And now let's hold that heel back. And sliding that knee back underneath us. Let's tuck the toes beneath us. We're going to float those knees slightly up off the mat. And then we're going to lower. Use that exhalation, we're going to float those knees. Inhale, lower. Now as you float those knees up, feel that corset wrapping around your lower abdominals. And this time holding that hover. I'm going to lift my hips up towards the ceiling, lowering those heels towards the mat. And then I just want you to start walking that dog. So think of walking that dog. along the river. And let's go for 3, 2, 1. We're going to step our feet to the outside of our hands. Bring yourself into our yogi squat. Press those hands together, maybe I'm high, maybe I'm low. You can find your own yogi squat. We're going to shift our weight from side to side. Just waking up those hips. And then just holding ourselves still. We're going to ever so slowly draw ourselves up nice and tall. Use those inner thighs to draw you up. Reach those hands up. Give yourself a little bit of a mini back bend. Coming upright. Pause my hands back to heart center. Let's walk those feet so that they're hip width apart. Beautiful. We're going to inhale. We're going to reach those arms up. We're going to exhale. We're going to forward fold. Inhale, we're going to half lift that spine. Exhale, we're going to plant our hands. We're going to either step or jump back into that high plank. Now from my knees or from my toes, we're going to lower ourselves down in our chaturanga. Draw that chest up towards the ceiling in mini cobra. Floating those knees up. Let's draw our hips back into that downward dog. Lowering those heels. Let's take 2 full breaths here. And then we take our gaze in between our hands, bend those knees, get a little bit of bounce in those knees. And let's use that energy from our knees to either step or jump in between our hands. We're going to half lift that spine. Let's hold that half lift. I want you to feel those sit bones reaching away from you as the crown of my head is reaching in the opposite direction. Belly button's drawn in and up underneath that rib cage. And just let those hands go. Maybe drawing circles with your knuckles on the mat beneath you. And then in the opposite direction, we're going to forward fold. We're going to slowly rise all the way up. Give yourself that little mini back bend. We're going to forward fold. We're going to half lift that spine. We're going to plant your hands and either step or jump back into that high plank. From that high plank, I want you to draw your hips up into your downward dog. Walking through that dog. And then planting those heels a little bit closer towards the mat. Between high and the balls of your feet. I'm going to float that left leg up towards the ceiling. I'm going to bend that leg. I want you to draw that knee so it's directly beneath your belly button. And then we're just going to sweep our knees from side to side. And then just holding that knee center, we're going to shoot that leg back up towards the ceiling. We're going to bend. We're going to step that hand in, or that foot in between our hands. We're going to plant that right hand underneath your face, and we're going to take that left arm. I want you to reach it up towards the ceiling, bringing ourselves into our twist. Let's hold it there for one more full breath. And then slowly unwinding. From here, I want you to reach those arms behind you. Draw those shoulder blades down. And then we're going to sweep them up, coming up into our high lunge. We're going to inhale, we're going to sweep back. Exhale, coming up. Finding that strength in that left leg. Reaching back and up. This time I want you to hold it back, reaching the fingertips back. Crown of my head is reaching forward. Can we interlock our fingers behind us? Reach them away, shoulder blades are drawn together. And I just want you to lower that left shoulder on towards that left thigh. Bring ourselves into that humble warrior. 2 more full breaths here. And then releasing your hands on either side of that left foot. We're going to start straightening that left leg and we're going to pop that right leg up. Bring yourself into that single leg forward fold. Chest is drawing towards my thighs. I'm going to bend that right leg. I'm going to bend the left knee, and I'm going to draw that right knee to the inside of that left knee, and then I'm going to pop those legs back up. Inhale, I'm going to bend. Exhale, reach away. Let's go for 3, 2, 1. Holding that right leg nice and high. Let's bend that right leg, plant it next to the left. We're coming into that half lift. And from the half lift, put that straight back. We're going to slowly come all the way up. Reaching those arms up. Bring us up into that mini back bend. We're going to forward fold. We're going to half lift that spine. We're going to plant your hands on the mat. We either step or jump back into that high plank position. From here, let's lift our hips up into our downward dog. I'm going to face this way so I can see a little bit more. Good. So lowering those heels towards our mat. And let's come high on the balls of our feet. We're going to float that right leg up. We're going to bend that right leg. That right knee is going to come directly underneath my belly button. Then I'm going to sweep my knee from side to side. Waking up those hip flexors. That hip. And then just hold that knee central. And then we're going to float that knee up towards the ceiling. From here, we're going to bend and we're just bring that foot, maybe guide it through. And then we're going to take that left hand, it's going to come directly underneath my face. We're going to reach that right arm up. Take my gaze upwards. Think of that right shoulder drawing back, aiding into our twist. Now let's slowly place that right hand on the other side of that right foot. We're going to reach those arms behind. Shoulder blades are drawn together. Chest is proud. We're going to draw those arms up into our high lunge. And then we're going to sweep back. So use that exhalation to reach up. Inhale down. And let's go for 3, 2, 1. Holding that high lunge. Slowly hinge through the hips, reaching those hands back. Let's interlock our hands above our lower back. Reach them away. Shoulder blades are drawn together. Let's take that right shoulder, planting it on that right thigh. Releasing any tension in your neck by allowing the top of my head to reach towards the floor. Now remember, I'm only your tour guide here, so do what feels the best for you. And when we release those hands, we're going to frame them on either side of that left foot. We're going to start, the right foot, we're going to start straighten that right leg, we're going to pop that left leg up. Flexing that left foot. I want you to bend the right knee, bend the left leg, and then we're going to pop them back up. So single leg forward fold, adding a little waterfall to it. And let's go for 3, 2, 1. Holding that leg up nice and high, maybe releasing that chest a little bit closer towards my thigh. Now let's bend that left leg, plant it next to the right. Let's come into that half lift. Holding that half lift, really find that length of the spine. And then from here, let's squeeze that derriere with a flat back vertical all the way up. Reaching those arms up, bring yourself into that little mini back. Beautiful. So it's getting warm in here. It's usually to start off cold. So I'm going to take my sweater off. There we go. Yeah, so I'm going to stand with my big toes together. And I'm going to relax those knees. Rolling those shoulders back. We're going to inhale, we're going to reach those arms up, palms of the hands together. Let's bring our thumbs to our center. We're going to sink ourselves into our chair position. Chest is proud. I want you to align those shins so that they're on the same plane. Holding it there for one more full breath. I'm going to lift my toes, and then I'm going to bring my feet so that they're parallel. I want you to float that right heel up off the floor. And you're just going to give me a little lift and more. We're going to lift and more. And let's go for 3, 2, 1. Holding those hips down. Can I float that right knee off the mat? Waking up that left ankle. We're going to lift it a tiny bit higher. I want you to step that right leg to the back of your mat, lifting up that chest. From here, let's lift those elbows a tiny bit higher. We're going to slowly twist over towards the left, hooking that right elbow to the outside of the left knee. Then I'm going to take my gaze upwards. Adding a little bit more twist, can I draw my thumbs to heart center? Let's hold it there for one more full breath. And we're going to slowly unwind. I'm not going to reach those arms up. We're going to pivot that back foot, bring yourself into that warrior one. So my right toes are pointing to the top right-hand corner of my mat. I'm going to try and adjust those hips. So I'm trying to bring that right hip slightly forward. We're going to bring our arms into a T. We need to lift the left foot, and we're going to pivot to the long edge of our mat. From here, I'm going to hinge from the hips, coming into that flat back. Keeping a slight bend in my knees, I'm going to come into that forward fold. I'm just going to let those hands go. I'm going to walk my hands over to the right ankle, taking my gaze over that right shoulder. And then slowly release, walking back to center, walking over to the left, taking my gaze over that left shoulder. Releasing. I'm going to bend my knees slightly to the tailbone, and I'm going to roll myself all the way up. I'm going to walk my feet slightly together. Toes are pointing to the corners of my mat, hips are underneath me. I want you to reach those arms back out into a T. We're going to lower those hips, we're going to sweep our arms up in front. Use that exhalation, we're going to reach the hands up, draw that heart back towards the ceiling. Inhale down, exhale up. I'm going down as deep as that torso will permit you, and let's go for 3, 2. When we're reaching those hands up, we're going to draw them back into a T. We're going to lift that right heel. We're going to pivot to the front, reach those arms up. From here, I want you to sweep those arms down by your side. We're going to hinge from the hips. We're going to take that right knee. We're going to drive it forward. We're going to point and flex that foot. Then I'm going to place my hands on my shins. I'm going to draw that knee a tiny bit higher. I'm going to slide that right hand down my shin, bending that leg, place the top of my foot in the palm of my hand, and maybe reaching. Oh, my balance is really off. Reaching that left arm up. Can I hinge forward, bring myself into my downward pose? You're just stretching that right hip flexor, right quad. Let's go for 3, 2. Let's slowly release, plant it down. We're going to inhale, we reach those arms up. We're going to exhale, we forward fold. Inhale, half lift that spine. Exhale, forward fold. We're going to hold that forward fold. I want you to take your left hand, place it on your right ankle. We're going to bend that left knee. We're going to reach that right arm up. Bring ourselves into that forward fold. And let's slowly release. Now let's do it on the opposite side. Right hand on that left knee, left ankle. Bending that right knee, we're going to reach that left arm up. And then slowly release. Coming into that half lift, let's reach those arms into our airplane, finding the strength in our upper back. We're going to bend our knees. We're going to sweep our arms forward, palms of our hands together. Bring yourself into our chair. Let's do this on the opposite side. We're going to lift that left heel. We're going to lift an inch, lower an inch. Lift an inch, lower an inch. Now let's go for 3, 2, 1. Holding those hips down. We're going to float that left knee up. Finding that strength in that right ankle. Can I lift that right knee a tiny bit higher, and then I'm going to step that foot to the back of my mat, lift my chest up. I want you to draw those elbows towards the ceiling. Bring that body upright. We're going to take that left elbow. We're going to hook it to the outside of that right knee. Right elbow's reaching towards the ceiling along with my gaze. Add a little bit more to my twist. Can I draw my thumbs to heart center? And let's go for 3, 2, 1. We're going to unwind. We're going to reach those arms back up towards the ceiling. Bringing those arms into a T. We're going to bring that back foot into our warrior 1 position. We're going to lift up that right heel. We're going to pivot to the long side of our mat. Let's hinge from the hips. Letting that from my head reach towards the floor. I'm going to walk my hands behind me. But think of those sit bones reaching towards the ceiling. I'm going to slight bend in those knees. And then bring those hands forward. This time I want you to bring those toes to the part of your mat. We're going to bring ourselves into a little side lunge. Slowly come up, opposite direction. Back to center. One more time per side. And back. Slowly tuck that tailbone under, rolling ourselves up one vertebra at a time. Walking our feet slightly together so we don't have such a big stance. Toes to the corner of our mat, bringing those hips underneath me. This time just bring your hands on your hips. We're going to lower those hips and lift one heel, followed by the opposite. We're going to lower one heel, lower the opposite. So it's lift, lift, lower, lower. Keeping those hip bones underneath us. And let's go for 3, 2, and 1. Let's ever so slowly come all the way up, reach those arms up. Palms my hands together, bring yourself into that mini back bend. Bring yourself upright. We're going to walk those feet together. We're going to float that left leg up. Oh, we were supposed to be in that lunge position. Let's float that knee up. Actually, it's the left leg, sorry. Oh, directionally challenged also today. We're going to take that left hand and that right hand. I want you to hug that left knee in towards your chest. We're going to start sliding that right hand down our left shin, taking hold of my foot, reaching that right arm up. Maybe this is where I'm at. We're adding that little hinge, challenging the balance. Low. There we go. And then ever so slowly getting upright. Let's let that leg go. Give those legs a little shake. We're going to inhale. Let's reach those arms up. We're going to forward fold. We're going to half lift that spine. Using that exhalation, we're going to forward fold. Plant our hands. Either step or jump back into that high plank. Let's flow in our vinyasa. Bending those elbows, lower that chest towards the mat. Bringing yourself into a mini cobra, or maybe it's not quite dog today. From here, let's tuck our toes beneath us. Coming up into that high plank. Let's reach our hips up towards the ceiling. Holding our dog. Rocking those feet, giving them a little bit of tread. And then holding those heels towards the floor. We're going to float that right leg up towards the ceiling. We're gonna bend that right leg. We're gonna draw that right knee over towards our left elbow or wrist, and then pop it back up. We're gonna bend, we're gonna draw it over towards the right, caution it up. This time we're gonna bend. Then we're gonna place that foot in between our hands. We're gonna pivot that back foot, bringing yourself into the warrior two leg position. Reaching those arms up and bring yourself into your warrior two. So with our stance, really think of that front toe reaching towards the front of the mat. The back foot, the razor side of my foot is aligned with the short end of my mat, and really get deep in those hips. Reaching those arms out, wrists aligned with my shoulders. Beautiful. Warrior two. Let's bring it into our reverse warrior by just shifting our ribs slightly back, lowering the left hand, pivoting the front, really reaching up. Maybe bring yourself into a half bind. Reverse warrior or assaulted warrior. And now let's slowly come back into that warrior two. We're going to bend the front arm, we're going to lower that forearm onto our front thigh, rotating the back hand, reaching up and over. I'm going to take my gaze upwards. And then slowly coming back into that warrior two. And we're going to come back into that assaulted or reverse warrior. I want you to reach that arm up. From here, I want you to take that top arm. I want you to bend your elbow, draw it into your rib cage, and then we're going to reach it up. So we're going to draw it in and reach. And let's go for 3, 2, 1. Let's come back into our warrior two. Pop the palms of our hands towards the ceiling. We're going to straighten that front leg. We're going to draw the palms of our hands together. We're coming back into that warrior two, up into that triangle. And let's go for 3, 2, 1. Holding that warrior two, rotate those palms towards the floor. Bending that front forearm, we're going to lower the front thigh, reaching that left arm up and over. Adding a challenge, reaching that right arm out, bring those arms more into an L position. Then ever so slowly, we're going to rise up, draw those arms back into that warrior two. We're going to lift up the back heel, pivot forward. We're going to hinge from the hips, reaching those hands behind. Can we pop up that back foot? Maybe bringing it into that warrior three. Having my heart just higher, but slightly higher than my hips. Let's go for 3, 2, 1. Lower those arms, bend that back leg, hands it next to the front, and rise all the way up. Hands to heart center. Beautiful. We're going to try that on the opposite side. Inhale to reach those arms up. Exhale, we're forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, plant your hands as we step or jump back into that high plank. From my knees or from my toes, let's slow. A little chaturanga, mini cobra, or maybe upright dog. Coming into that high plank, drawing yourself into that downward dog. Just walk that dog. Now let's float that left leg up towards the ceiling. Bend that leg, we're going to draw that knee towards the right elbow, and then pop it back up. Draw it over to the left. Pop it back up. This time we're going to draw it center. We're going to step up our foot in between our hands. Pivot that back foot, bring it into the warrior two position, and rise up. Hips are underneath you. Same position as the opposite side. Keep that beautiful bend in that front leg. Gazes forward. Let's take the back hand. We're just going to reach so the ribs are just shifting back. Lower the back palm. Reach the front arm up. Palm back. Gazes up. Little reverse warrior. Coming back into that warrior two. Bending the front forearm. Lowering the front thigh. Bringing yourself in extended side angle. And now let's slowly come up. Bring yourself back into that assaultive reverse warrior. Reach that back hand back over the palm. Reach that arm up towards the ceiling. Can we slide that right hand a little bit farther down that right thigh? Let's bend the left elbow, draw it into our rib cage as I reach down. Really find that reach. Stretching through that left side of my torso. And let's go for 3, 2, 1, holding. And now come into that warrior 2. We're going to bend the front forearm and lower it down into that sitting side angle. We're going to reach that arm out into an L position. Challenging that core. And slowly come back up into that warrior 2. Lower your hands down by your side. Let's lift up the back heel. Pivot forward. And then we're going to pop up that back leg. Reaching those arms back. There we go. Really reach back. Maybe that back foot is on the mat. Maybe it's lifted. Reaching those arms forward in that warrior 3. Chest is a tiny bit higher than my hips. So for 3, 2, 1. Lower those hands. We're going to bend that back leg back. And that's going to reach the arms up. And down. Let's bring our arms behind, interlocking those fingers. Drawing the tops of my hands towards the floor as I draw those shoulder blades to center my spine. And let's reach that chest up. Finding back extensions wherever we can. We're in that forward fold so much for our computers. And then release, give those arms a really good shake. We're going to inhale and reach this arms up. That's just our exhalation. We're going to forward fold. Inhale, we're going to half lift. Exhale, plant those hands as I step or jump back into that half plank. So for my knees are for my toes, we're going to bend those elbows. We're going to start lowering that chest. Nice and slow, all the way down on my mat. Now let's relax those feet. We're going to reach our fingertips to the outside of our mats. Elbows are going to be high. Let's tend through the palms of our hands. Gaze is down, bring ourselves into our king cobra. I want you to lift that chest. Press those fingertips into the mat. And then from here, I want you to take that right shoulder. I want you to lower it down towards the mat as I take my gaze over that left shoulder. Slowly unwinding. Let's drop that left shoulder towards the mat as my gaze goes over that right shoulder. And then slowly come back. We're going to reach those hands behind us. Interlock our fingers at our lower back. And then reaching those hands towards your heels as I lift that chest. You start floating the knees up off the mat. Followed by your thighs. Followed by your toes. And I lift that chest a tiny bit higher. Then ever so slowly release. Placing those hands on either side of my chest, in line with my shoulders. I want you to press yourself up into that upright dog. Drop those hips towards the floor. And from here, I want you to sweep those hips back into that child's pose. Walking your hands over to the right side of your mat, lowering the left armpit towards the mat. Walking those hands back to center, now let's walk them over to the left. Dropping that right armpit towards the mat. Walking those hands to center. Let's shift yourself into that kneeling plank. Walking those knees Directly underneath us, bringing yourself back into that tabletop. Drawing those hips underneath us, tucking that tailbone under, reaching that upper back towards the ceiling, bring yourself into that cat. Now slowly coming into that path. Adding a little bit of organic movement to this. Right? Any kinks out of those hips, out of that back. Coming back into that neutral position, we're going to lower one hip towards the mat, and we're going to sweep those legs out in front of us. Legs long to start. So I'm going to be right on my sit bones, so I'm going to move a little bit of luggage around. And then I just want you to shimmy those hips so we get a bit more blood flow into those sit bones. And it's kind of fun. Draw the crown of my head towards the ceiling, reaching those arms up. Take a nice deep breath in, breathe. I want you to flex up and over those thighs. Hands might land on my shins, they might land on your toes. We're all so different and unique. But think of grounding through that lower back as I scoot through the abdominals, hollowing out through my chest. Then ever so slowly tuck that tailbone under. We're going to reach that spine one vertebra at a time. Let's slide the soles of our feet together. Bring yourself into a butterfly. So I might do more than a peace sit. Maybe my heels are a little bit closer. I'm going to take my peace fingers, wrap around my big toes, or take the palms of your hands underneath those ankles. Let's start with that nice long spine. Once we find that long spine, can we hinge slightly forward, bending those elbows? Think of those knees drawing towards the mat. From that flat back, I want you to tuck the tailbone under, scooping through those abdominals, drawing those shoulder blades away from one another. And then coming back into that flat back. Let's bring those knees together. Bring those arms out in front, setting those shoulders. We're going to tuck the tailbone under. We're going to slowly come down for pound 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Reaching those arms up overhead. Sliding the soles of your feet underneath you. Smoothing those arms down by our sides. I want you to float one leg into a tabletop, followed by the opposite. Let's slide those arms back into a T. We did this at the beginning. Let's see how our hips and our spine feels at this moment. We're going to inhale, those knees are going to fall over to the right. Gaze is going to come over the left shoulder. Keeping those shoulders attached to the mat beneath us. And then exhale, we're going to draw them back to center. Let's let those knees fall over to the left. Gaze is over the right shoulder. And then slowly come back to center. Let's lower the soles of our feet to the floor, floating that left leg up towards the ceiling. We're going to take that left ankle, cross it over the right thigh, drawing that left knee away from us, taking my hands in between the inside and outside of that left thigh. As our right thigh, we're going to draw that knee in towards us. Bring yourself into our figure 4 stretch. Maybe extending that right leg up. Or deepening the stretch by interlocking my fingers around my shin, drawing that knee a little bit closer. Keep reaching that left sit bone away. And then slowly lower that foot. We're going to uncross. We're going to float that right leg up towards the ceiling. So draw a space in that right leg. We're going to bend, we're going to plant that right ankle on top of that left thigh. Hopping that left foot up. Take my hands behind that left thigh. Maybe straighten that leg up towards the ceiling. Or deepening the stretch by interlocking my fingers around my shin. Right knee is drawing away along with that right sit bone. Let's go for 3, 2, 1. Slowly lower that foot towards the mat. Bring those feet together. From here, I just want you to windshield wipe for those knees from side to side. And then just holding those legs nice and still, we can slide them out nice and long. I want you to find a comfortable resting position. This is our last pose of the practice. One of our most important poses. Pose where we can allow our breath to absorb what we've created both physically and spiritually. So with my hands, I can be resting down on my side. Or maybe one hand on my belly, one on my heart. So close your eyes. Soften your breath. Our breath does so many things for us. Deep breaths in and out helps relax our mind, helps relax our being. Using that breath to scan from the soles of my feet to the crown of my head. Using that scanning of that to bring awareness back. Letting that body move gently on top of the mat beneath you. And slowly bring yourself into a fetal position, whether it's on your right side or your left side. Right side is my yin, left side is my yang. And ever so slowly, pressing yourself up into a comfortable sitting position. Maybe my legs are crossed, feet, maybe they're long, wherever you can find a little bit of comfort. Let's reach those arms out into a T. Energy through those fingertips, and let's bring that energy above our head, palms of our hands together. Let's bring our thumbs to heart center. I want to thank you all for allowing me to be part of your practice today. And may the spirit within me enlighten the spirit within you.